Hai, Assalamualaikum. Today, we want to present about Perwaja Steel Syndrome Berhad scandal. Our group is me, Ahmad Hilman, Muhammad Izzuddin, Ibn Muhammad Aish Najwan, and Afif Shahmi. For introduction is, what is accounting fraud? Accounting fraud is the intentional manipulation of financial statements to create a false picture of business financial health. It also involves an employee, accountant, or the company itself deceiving investors and shareholders, overstating revenue, failing to report expenses, and misstating assets and liabilities are all ways for a corporation to falsify its financial statement. Next topic is, what is the meaning of tone at the top? The term tone at the top is used in auditing to describe the leadership of company's management and board of directors, as well as their dedication to being honest and ethical. A company's cultural environment and corporate principles are established by the tone at the top. The expression tone at the top comes from auditing firms, where it refers to a company's management approach towards internal control and ethics. Following a series of corporate accounting scandals such as Enron, WorldCom, Adelphia, and others, the Sarbanes-Oxley (SOX) Act of 2002 popularized the term tone at the top, which was missing in the previous scandal. So we move to tone at the top of Perwaja Steel. Perwaja Terengganu was established on 22 April 1982 with a paid-up capital of 250 million as a joint venture between the Malaysian government's Heavy Industries Corporation (HICOM Ltd) and Nippon Steel Corporation. The project was supposed to be the crowning achievement of Mahathir's Look East policy's industrialization effort. Based on a breakthrough technique, the Japanese company established a billet making factory and a direct reduction facility to smelt ore into hot briquette iron. The direct reduction facility never worked well, and the joint venture project had lost 131 million by 1986. This was linked to management issues as well as the Japanese yen's strengthening, which affected interest payment on yen loan worth 850 million. Nippon Steel handed up its 30% investment in the company in 1987, while HICOM lost its 51% ownership, leaving the Malaysian government with 81% of Perwaja Terengganu's equity and the Terengganu state government with 90%. In 1987, Mahathir personally selected Eric Chia, a valued associate, to spend 6 months in the company and report on why the project was failing. Eric was hired as the managing director of Perwaja Terengganu in 1988, and the government received over 10 offers during this time to turn the 1.2 billion facilities into a successful venture, but it was led to become insolvent in 1988. Eric and his board of directors were tasked with rehabbing the project, which included members from the finance ministry. The corporation turned a profit for the first time in 1991, and Mahathir utilized the moment to silence critics of his ambitious mega projects endeavor. Eric unexpectedly left the company in 1995, and a year later, the company declared a pre-tax loss 376.54 million, allegedly due to an expansion project including the construction of a rolling mill. Despite the setback, the company was able to get a 600 million syndicate loan from EPF in 1996. When Eric departed the firm in 1995, it had accrued 10 billion in debts and losses, including 9.26 million in current obligation, 6.013 billion in long-term loans, and 2.985 billion in losses. On June 16, 1995, Perwaja Steel was handed over to its closest partners, Abu Sahid of Maju Holdings, who acquired a 51% interest because he wanted to be recognized as a steel guy, and the Feng family of King Steel, who took the rest to protect their own steel activities. Perwaja Holdings was listed on the main board of Bursa Malaysia in 2008, and Perwaja Steel became a wholly owned subsidiary of Perwaja Holdings. Perwaja Steel was put into receivership in December 2014 after EPF launched a 4.5 billion ringgit lawsuit against them. Mahathir's Malaysia Incorporation Jomo 2003 neoliberalism philosophy drove him to pursue a strong industrialization and privatization agenda with the rhetoric of keeping up with the other Asian tigers. Regardless of the consequence on the democratic process, despite the initiative's clear signal of failure, he continued to pour additional public cash into the pet project, believing it was too crucial to fail in order to save his ego and deflect a mounting criticism from his opponent. He sought advice and backing from neoliberal friends, promising to safeguard their interests by using infrastructure authority. These backed up Boltanski and Chiapello 2005 and Sitka 2015 claims that neoliberalism ideology legitimized competitive humans' constant quest as a sign of success.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Izzuddin bin Abdul Rahim. I will talk about the fraud of Perwaja Steel. First thing first, Perwaja Steel, or originally Perwaja Terengganu Sdn Bhd, was held on April 22, 1982 with the terms of investment of RM 250 million. Perwaja Steel Sdn Bhd is a partnership between the Malaysian government-owned Heavy Industry Corporation of Malaysia, other name is HICOP, and Nippon Steel, a Japanese company. Such companies make better or more efficient iron and semi-steel products. It has two massive businesses in Terengganu, Mamat, and Gurun, Kedah, with its office in Kuala Lumpur. The primary purpose of these companies' manufacturing is to fulfill the consumer spending for metal goods at the lowest cost. In Malaysia, it manufactures and supplies steelmaking products. They also supply nationally and internationally sale of moderately and finalized steel products. All began when such firm Perwaja Steel Sdn Bhd took a massive loans from a Japanese firm named Japanese Export Bank in the sum of 81.5 million yen, which is similar to RM 850 millions. Companies bear the money with the Cabinet of Finance guarantee. When Nippon Steel backed out of the project in 1987, everything did not go as planned. The firm suffered a deficit for their business and was facing manufacturing problems. Companies are in debt, and since the loan is in yen, the rate of interest has escalated, causing Nippon Steel to withdraw from the partnership because they estimate the deficit will be probably higher than the previous loss. The damages are projected to be in the tens of billions of ringgit. an investigator from the Anti-Corruption Agency or SCA did a cost-benefit analysis for Perwaja Steel Sdn Bhd on 10 April 1996. During the investigation, he revealed that the firm had been mishandled and had sustained a deficit of around Rm 2.5 million. Furthermore, the business was detected engaging in multiple transactions. They appeared to be making a payment to a non-existent firm. There were various erroneous data, but they were collecting things that had not been displayed by the business and were of questionable quality. From 1992 to 1995, no external audits were discovered to be present in regard to the Perwaja Steel losses. According to investigation, Perwaja does not have a concerning internal control structure. They were also discovered to have questionable contract totaling about Rm 292 million, Rm 200,000 a monthly for planting maintenance and car upkeep. Former Finance Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim asked an external auditors company to go look out and examine Perwaja Steel's 1988 bankruptcy situation, where Perwaja Steel was frequently claimed to still be on the verge of collapse. According to the report from the independent auditor, Coopers and Key Brand, the investigation revealed that the Perwaja Steel deal and documentation were faultless until the firm declared bankruptcy. He is the one who disclosed all of the facts concerning Perwaja Steel's activities and detect all of the company's unethical and fraudulent activities. Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim revealed in Parliament that the true loss was Rm 29 billion, after which he filed a police case in 1999. In that report, it was noted that Eric Chia had frequently asserted that his action was supported and directed by Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir since he had been nominated by him. During the parliamentary session, Anwar Ibrahim displayed the audit report from the probe, which revealed that Perwaja Steel was bankrupt. On 10 April 1996, the government has issued an inquiry order and the Anti-Corruption Agency, now called as the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission or MACC, start researching the company's audit report due to the problem of conspiracy to commit fraud, Perwaja Steel's new leadership charge, among other things, and in internal report.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Afif Syahmi. So I want to explain about the fraud triangle, which is pressure, opportunity and rationalization. So pressure, whether financial or from superiors, is the driving cause behind fraud. Both of these factors contribute to fraud. Without rational and lawful answers, individuals may turn to irrational measures. Personal financial strain can show itself in unsolvable financial difficulties, a lack of income, pressure from banks to repay loans, and maintaining a lifestyle. Pressure can be derived from threats to a company's financial health, external pressures from lenders, the influence of a company's performance on wealth management, and difficulties meeting financial targets. In light of the Perwaja Steel case, business are likely to experience the pressure of dealing with production issues and massive debt obligations. Perwaja Steel must bear the consequences of the failures and losses of Japan's company products. This means that this corporation will have to turn to fraud in order to pay off its debts, as there was no profit to begin with. For the opportunity, in the context of fraud, opportunity refers to a situation in which fraud can occur. Even if someone has a strong reason to conduct fraud, he or she will not be able to do so. There is no chance of success. Opportunities for fraud arise when internal controls are weak, such as improper separation of roles, lack of monitoring, and lack documentation of processes. It's easy to see from the case study above that a weak internal control and lack of management monitoring allow the management to conduct fraud. As soon as the new management arrived, they discovered that the internal report had numerous mistakes. Weak internal controls are readily apparent because management is ignorant to an issue with an internal report that could lead to corporate fraud. For the rationalization, the term rationalization refers to an individual's justification for engaging in fraudulent behavior. Based on the Perwaja steel case, rationalization can be seen when company doesn't take legal action until a police report was made in 1999, and then Mr. Eric Chia was arrested in 2004. Despite the arrest, there were no big changes made. We can see from this that if the management conduct fraud and no police complaint is filed, they will be not prosecuted. The fraudster will assume that issues are not treated seriously and be able to get away with it. For the consequences, impact and penalty, first on the auditors, it was reported in November 1995 that the steel mill owed 10 billion, which included 926 million in current liabilities and another 6.1 billion in long-term liabilities and losses. The government launched an investigation. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, which is known as MACC, formerly known as the ACA, Anti-Corruption Agency, issued a government probe order and began investigating the company's audit report for possible malpractice and fraud that contribute to the loss on April 10, 1996. More than 50%, including Eric Chia, were questioned by the agency as part of its investigation. According to Dr. Ahmad Zaki Hussein, ACA Director General, the probe into Perwaja Steel's 2.9 billion losses as of December 31, 1995 is still ongoing. In March 2001, he announced that he had identified an 76.4 million transferred to a Swiss bank account in the British Virgin Islands, which had been deposited there. But until Eric Chia's arrest in March 2004, no criminal charge were brought against Perwaja. So for the next penalty imposed for the company, there is little doubt that Perwaja was nothing but a politically motivated, commercially dubious and poorly executed initiative that went down in flames. The company was unable to produce steel despite substantial financing, a healthy company, and taxes and quotas to protect against competing imports. In addition to long-term operational challenge and a crushing debt load, it suffered huge foreign currency losses as a result of excessive borrowing outside the country. Even after the government decided to swallow 9.9 billion in cumulative losses and sell Perwaja in 1996, the company struggled to stay in business. However, Perwaja had a shadier side, earning it a place among Malaysia's most notorious financial scandals. An unknown amount of 15 billion or more that the company consumed was siphoned off through various vendors and grocers. Even through both internal and external reports proved that the corporation had been revealed, very little was done to bring the offender to justice and recoup the funds. On February 21, 2002, Perwaja Steel temporarily closed operation at its two sites in Teluk Kalong, Kemaman and Gurun. More than 1,600 Perwaja employees in Kemaman were briefed by Perwaja CEO Datuk Abu Talib Muhammad on the temporary shutdown of the two factories. The temporary shutdown of Perwaja will allow a company's management to reorganize its operation following a terrible problem that they made. About 100 administrative employees at Shah Alam, Malaysia corporate headquarter facility were also involved in the investigation. Voluntary retirement scheme, which is SPS, is provided to the company employees. According to MTUC Chairman Senator Zainal Rampak, Human Resource Minister Datuk Dr. Fong Chan On should step in and find a solution to Perwaja Steel proposal to reduce the number of employees on the company's payroll. So for the management, Eric Chia, the chairman of Perwaja, allegedly claimed that his actions were authorized and directed by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Mahathir in a police report filed by Anwar. Letters from Prime Minister himself support this claim. The board was sidelined by the so-called mandate. Procurement process were flagrantly breached and questionable. Unsatisfactory payments were made to select parties. After years of quiet from the ACA and the police, Eric Chia was finally prosecuted in 2004 for corruptly sanctioning payment of 76.4 million. Under Section 409 of the Penal Code, he was charged with a crime that carries a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison, with a crime that carries a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison and fine of not less than 2 years. But Eric Chia has pled not guilty to the accusation that have been made against him. The reporters in Kuala Lumpur still defend himself by claiming that he took the Perwaja leadership role since the group was facing an insignificant repayment issue. Eric Chia stated that he will let the people and God decide how he should be judged when Tun Dr. Mahathir stepped down as Prime Minister and was succeeded by Tun Abdullah Ahmad Badawi, the Prime Minister before Dr. Mahathir, which occurred as a result of the change in leadership. In comparison to the estimate loss over 10 billion, 76.4 million is not really a significant number. The prosecution wrapped up their case on May 4, 2007 after calling 29 witnesses. The 76.4 million is alleged criminal breach of trust allegation were dismissed by Session Court Judge Akhtar Tahir on June 26, 2007 because the prosecution had failed to establish a prima facie case against Chia. He was killed a year later by a heart attack.
Next, Perwaja Steel was founded in 1982 as Perwaja Terengganu Sdn Bhd, a joint venture between Highcom, Nippon Steel Corporation and the Terengganu State Government. This firm was insured by the Ministry of Finance with a paid-up capital of 250 million and a loan of 850 million from the Japanese Export Bank. However, the firm has experienced several challenges since its inception, including the commodities crisis, which resulted in a drop in commodity prices such as iron prices, an increase in the value of the yen, and a decrease in demand for the iron. Next, Perwaja has accrued a loss of 1 billion ringgit in 1988. As a consequence, Nippon Steel and Highcom withdrew as Perwaja stockholders in 1989, and their shares were purchased by the MOF. MOF invested 250 million ringgit in Perwaja to ensure its long-term viability. In 1997, as an alternative strategy to resurrect Perwaja, the MOF presented a private proposal in which Maju Holdings will buy 51% of Perwaja shares. However, owing to the ocean financial crisis that happened at the time, the plan was postponed for a while. The plan was carried forward and finished in 2003. Following a long examination, Perwaja became a subsidiary of Steel Berhad. Next, when there is government interference, the Perwaja Steel case has a lot to do with politics. The situation became more complicated when the Swiss government refuted Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, claimed that he had refused to help with Malaysian investigators in the Perwaja Steel case. Tun Dr. Mahathir blamed the anti-corruption on agencies' inability to uncover the long-running 10 billion ringgit Perwaja Steel scandal entirely on the Swiss authorities' lack of cooperation in a speech delivered in London on February 26. He claimed that the Swiss had withheld information on the Swiss account where 76 million Malaysian ringgit had been unlawfully withdrawn from Perwaja Steel Sdn Bhd. The Swiss consul said that the Swiss government has always responded rapidly to Malaysian inquiries and will continue to do so in the future. It was merely a matter of waiting for Malaysia's next move. The gravity of the situation is compounded and incorporated by the Prime Minister's alleged personal involvement in the criminal matter, as charged by former Deputy Finance Minister Anwar Ibrahim in his July 22, 1999 police report, and the government's long delay in bringing the perpetrators to justice. The country now anticipates a swift response from the Prime Minister in response to the latest Swiss disclosures. The Perwaja steel fraud case, which lasts over 12 years, was recognized as one of the country's longest fraud investigations. Perwaja Steel began as a joint venture between the Malaysian government and Nippon Steel Corporation, a Japanese company. As part of the Malaysian government's push to implement industrial policy in the country. To assure the success of this joint venture, the Malaysian government has created a 1 billion ringgit iron factory in Terengganu to supply the demand for iron items. However, operational inefficiencies caused a slew of issues, and Perwaja began to struggle to repay its debts. Then, the Malaysian government would be liable for debts totaling more than 10 billion ringgit, despite the fact that the firm began to produce money in 2006 to 2008. The company's debt burden is too large, causing many of Perwaja's activities to be disrupted. Due to substantial arrears, the plant's water and electricity supplies were cut off in 2013, and Perwaja Steel's assets began to be liquidated in March 2018 to fulfill the company's financial commitments. In our opinion, Perwaja was nothing more than a spectacular example of a badly managed, politically motivated, and commercially dubious venture that collapsed predictably. Despite significant investment, a strong economy for the most of the time, and taxes and quotas to safeguard against competitive imports, the firm was never able to profitably manufacture steel. It was plagued by long-term operational issues and a crippling debt load, which include significant foreign exchange losses due to substantial borrowing offshore.
For the last part is wisdom. In this scandal, a lot of lessons we can learn from it. We should study or investigate a lot before doing something. As an example, from this case, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad was never expecting the problem for Perwaja Steel was from the management problems and appreciation of Japanese yen, which is affected its interest payment. As we know, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad is a very intelligent leader. He wants Malaysia's economy to be like other progressive countries, and his mega project was also succeeded. For example, KLIA, Putrajaya, and Sepang Grand Prix. But for Perwaja Steel, he never expects that this project will fail. Other than that, we should always be careful with something that we are doing. Dr. Mahathir Mohamad was rushing for this project because of his ideology, which is neoliberalism. This ideology led him to be aggressive in industrialization, and the result is this scandal is the oldest scandal in Malaysia.